So, will the rule change lead to more gridlock in the Senate? That's what we're talking about this half hour, and we want to know what you think. Share your comments on Facebook and on Twitter, and we may share them on the air. Chris Tritico, Jackie Bally, and Mustafa Tamiz are in the newsroom right now. So, what do you guys think?
You know, for years, the Senate, regardless of who's in power, whether it's the Republicans in power or the Democrats in power, they have taken the advise and consent section of the Constitution and turned it on its head and used that advise and consent as a political tool against the person in the White House. And we've heard these arguments, regardless of who's in power, that the Senate is stonewalling the president in allowing the president to get his nominees in place. And it's usually the judiciary that is held up, and in President Obama's situation has been more than just the judiciary. But at the end of the day, the people that are hurt by these tactics, and again, regardless of who's in power, the people that are hurt by these tactics are the American public. And when we can't get before a judge, and we can't get our thing and can't get our business taken care of. And so, was it the right thing to do is the question. And while people have talked about using this nuclear option for years and years and years, it's never happened because of the Senate rules and the fear of changing those rules. Mustafa Tamiz, so the president's going to get all these people now into place. That dog bites back. I mean, if the Democrats do lose control of the Senate in the next election, the Senate's going to do whatever it wants.
Well, that's not likely to happen, but at some point the Republicans may be in charge of the Senate. If this new Republican Party is willing to shut down the government for 17 days, they wouldn't even bat an eye in changing the rules when it was their turn. So for them to sit there now and to complain about it, it's just disingenuous. We see them right here in Texas wanting to change the rules of the Senate. So
it did.
This is disingenuous conversation, a bunch of Republican talking points. Everybody gets that opportunity to be on television and say bad things about the president, which they do every day anyway.
You know, he makes a valid point. In the last legislative session, when the Republicans wanted to get the abortion bill changed, they just changed the Senate rules in Texas so that the Democrats couldn't block it.
Well,
what's the difference?
Well, that's, first of all, that's Texas, and we're not talking about national. But I'll tell you what's disingenuous is when you have the same people in 2005, starting with Obama, Pelosi, Reid, Biden, who said that any type of policy change like they're now trying to implement would be detrimental to the Senate. It would not be. It would be against the Constitution, and they were all opposed to this type of policy change. But now they're proponents of it because they think it will help their cause, help their party, help whatever the agenda they're trying to push.
Isn't that the way they both do, though?
So when we're talking about disingenuous, that's disingenuous when you're going to be a hypocrite and say one thing in 2005, but because you're now trying to push your own agenda, you're trying to say something else.
Do you agree that both parties do it that way?
Well, that's what politics is all about.
Now I'm going to go to Dominique Rogue. I'm going to come back to that in a minute. I'm going to go to Dominique. She's monitoring our social media, and I know this is a hopping topic.
Oh, it certainly is. You know, the big question on my Facebook page is, will this change come back to haunt Democrats later on in the future? And Rodney Sterling says it already has. He says, I will never vote for another Democrat again. Do you guys think most people feel that way?
Well, look, it's a scary thing when you start tinkering with the rules like the Democrats did last week in the Senate. And it is going to come back to haunt the Democrats eventually. One day there will be a Republican in the White House and a Republican Senate, and the Democrats won't be able to stop any appointments and won't be able to even do anything about any appointments. And that's when the Democrats will start howling about this rule change. But they brought this on, Mustafa Tamiz.
Well, I just think that today's Republican Party that's willing to shut down the government from the Senate, from our senator who shut down the government, would they not change the rules to get their way? And the answer to it, they would. So we have to govern. I mean, in essence, these agencies that we have, the only reason Republicans are blocking those nominations is because they're against the agency, not because they question the person that's being appointed.
You know, Jackie Bally, when George Bush II was in the White House and the Democrats were blocking his judicial nominees, he used recess appointments to appoint them when the Senate shut down, and the Democrats then kept the Senate open the entire time he was in the White House, so he couldn't do that anymore. There's really not much difference in that in this, is there?
Well, what you're seeing now, though, is, and I'm going to answer your last question first. Yes, the Democrats are going to suffer from this because, first of all, the total disaster of Obamacare. That's why so many of them are going to lose their seats. And now with this very desperate play for power and trying to push certain assignments and agenda, many people, many of our residents, many of our citizens are going to see it for what it is, and they're going to vote them out because of that reason. But as we're moving forward, everyone always talks about the new Republican Party. You also have a new Democrat Party, and you're seeing a tug and a push coming from within their party as well, and they call it the Elizabeth Warren wing, where you see a lot of aggression, especially on the left. And that's when we see a lot of our residents are going to push back on that as well. So I think the Democrats are in trouble, and they're just proving that they know that.
We'll see where it goes. We're going to leave it right there. We'll be back next week with the hottest topics of the week, and I hope you have a really, really good Thanksgiving there, Donnelly.
Thank you so much. I hope you guys eat plenty. I will. Thanks, you guys.
Thanks, Dominic.